Group 5 is activated in
5,
4.
3, 2, 1.
Group 5, are you ready?
Yes, we're ready. Yes, we're ready. Yes, we're ready. Yes, we're ready.
Who are we?
We are the dauntless. The dauntless. We are the dauntless. The dauntless.
One, two. 1, 2, 3, go.
Dum 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 dum. Dum dum dooby dooby dum dum dum. Dum dooby dum dum dum. Dum dum dooby dooby dum dum dum. We are the Group 5, willing to learn, to teach, and share what we have. Group 5, we got you.
Good day everyone, we are the Group 5 and our lesson is about informative communication versus other forms of communication. Before we go to the main discussion, we have here the learning outcomes. First is to differentiate the three forms of discourse. Second is to discuss the uniqueness of each type in relation to a relevant topic on health literacy. Third is to familiarize to the different methods of exposition. And lastly is to create an infographic and dance exercise tutorial about healthy living and lifestyle with the purpose of informing its intended readers. So let's have now the discussion. What is informative communication? Informative communication means a proactive approach rather than a reactive or ad hoc response as issues crop up. Being proactive can avoid problems that arise from an information vacuum. So what does this ad hoc response mean? It means that a reaction or solution created specifically for a particular problem or situation, often improvised and not planned in advance. This makes the informative communication as a proactive approach because it involves sharing information beforehand to prevent problems caused by lack of knowledge or what we call information vacuum. So this lesson will dwell on the three of the four forms of discourse, which are exposition, description, and narration. These three will be furthermore discussed by my group mates, but why is it necessary to distinguish each type? First reason is that each of these discourses differs from one another in their style and purposes. It means that distinguishing each type of discourse is necessary because they have unique styles and purposes. For example, we have the narrative discourse or the narration discourse. It tells a story, while a description discourse tells what things are like according to 5 senses. Second reason is that most of your writing tasks involve these modes of discourses, which make it imperative for you to understand them. So understanding these models of discourse is crucial because they are commonly used in writing tasks. Whether it is crafting a story, arguing a point, or informing the reader, knowing how to utilize each type effectively enhances our communication skills.
So, good day everyone. I am the next reporter. The next topic are the different forms of discourse. There are 3 forms of discourse: the narration, description, and exposition. And I'm only going to discuss narration. So narration is storytelling. Narration can be found in various forms of writing, such as news articles, historical accounts, instructional texts, and even academic papers. The primary focus of narration is to inform, explain, or describe events. Its purpose is to entertain or engage the reader emotionally. It involves a series of events, usually in a chronological order. Narration indeed involves relating a series of events, and presenting them in a chronological order is a common way to structure a narrative. By organizing events in the order they occurred, the narrator can create a clear and coherent story that's easy for the audience to follow. This structure, often used in both fictional and non-fictional narratives, such as novels, short story, biographies, histories, and news reports. A simple narrative may begin with "Once upon a time" and end with "and they lived happily ever after." The phrase "once upon a time" serves as a gentle introduction to the story, signaling to the reader or listener that they are about to embark on a fantastical journey. It's a way of setting the tone for a narrative that will transport them to a world of wonder and magic. This phrase has become synonymous with the idea of a story that will be engaging, entertaining, and perhaps even a little bit fantastical. And the phrase "and they lived happily up" and the phrase "and they lived happily ever after" is a satisfying conclusion to the story, implying that the characters have overcome their challenges, achieve a state of happiness and contentment. This phrase provides a sense of closure and finality, letting the reader know that the story has reached its resolution and that all is well in the world of the narrative. The events narrated may be fictional or non-fictional. However, we usually reserve the title "story" for fiction. If the events actually happened, we give the writing another name such as biography, autobiography, history, after-action report, or newspaper report. The last bullet highlights the distinction between fiction and non-fiction writing. So, fiction are those that are made up, not based on real events or people, are often used to entertain, educate, or convey a message. Example of fictional narratives include novels, short stories, and fairy tales. And non-fictional events are those that actually occurred and are often used to inform, educate, or document historical events. Example of non-fictional narratives includes biographies, autobiographies, histories, and news reports. As with any dichotomy, there are some cases that fall in between. So dichotomy is a contrast between two things that are or is represented as being opposed or entirely different. For example, there is a genre called historical fiction that may more or less accurately portray an historical event while making up a story about real or fictional characters involved in that event. One well-known example is Gone with the Wind, the story of Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler during the American Civil. That's all.
My name is Gina May Amatanyas, and my assigned topic to discuss is the forms of discourse, which is the description. Description tries to evoke a mood or atmosphere, and this is through the use of simile and metaphor. This description tells about something through our five senses, just like a descriptive essay or story that through the five senses it tells how things look, sound, feel, taste, and smell through some descriptive words. So this form of discourse is the way that enable the readers to visualize the characters and settings as well as the actions of the story. The next is the exposition. This is from the Greek through Latin word the ex, which means out or away from, and the word from a Latin which is ponere, means to place. So that means the literal translation of exposition, which means to place out, and this is for us to see and understand the information, and this the thing that we need to place out is referring to the information. So there are modes of Writing and exposition has these several subtypes such as exemplification with or illustration, the cause and effect, or referring to cause and the result, comparison or contrast, that means the similarities and differences, the definition or what we call extended definition, the division or classification, the process or which what we call process analysis, and the last is the problem solution, and that will be discussed for the next reporter.
So, this is Rachel Pebro. We will be discussing a subtype of exposition. Exposition. These are distinguished by purpose, as the names indicate, but also by structure or organization. For example, an experienced writer understands that an essay that compares and contrasts or that describes a problem and presents a solution each has its own convenient pattern of organization, and that one's reader recognize and intend mode. They also expect the writer to follow the organizational conventions associated with it. Exemplification, illustration. Exemplification is also called illustration because the writer uses example to highlight or explain, illustrate his or her point. Exemplification is most often used as part of other rhetorical modes. Comparison and contrast. Comparison, contrast, look at similars. Comparison and differences, contrast. Because any time you look at comparing something, differences are assumed by what is said or not. This mode is often just called contrast. Definition, extended definition. Definition is based on explaining a term, concept, idea, and etc. Since obviously providing a one sentence of definition is not enough for a whole paper, one needs to provide example. See implications, illustration above. That is why sometimes this mode goes by the name extended definition. Cause and effect, result. The mode of cause effect faces reasons, causes and outcomes or results. The effect.
Division of classification. Division of classification is much like comparison, contrast, except two or more items are examined. Process analysis. Process explain how something is done. At times, a whole essay can be written explaining how something is done or accomplished. But in order to really flesh it out, it needs analysis, which is why this mode is also called process analysis. Therefore, the writer needs to extend the process to include why things are done or happen when they do, and why that might be important. Problem solution. Problem solution is concerned with presenting or highlighting an issue, problem, and how it was or is resolved. Solution.